Right. Okay. Good morning and welcome to the Personnel Committee meeting on the 15th of April 2025. I'm your chair for today's meeting, Councillor John Loudon, as our chair, Councillor Eleanor Rylance, is unable to make this meeting. I'd also like to welcome anyone watching the meeting via the live stream. We'll now start the meeting by doing a roll call of committee members here and present, and please perhaps advise at the same time whether you've got any declarations of interest. Thank you, Debbie.
Thank you, Chair. I'll start with yourself, Councillor John Loudon.
I'm present. I don't have any interest to declare.
Thank you. Next is Councillor Paul Arnott. Good morning.
Good morning. Sorry, this hasn't clicked in.
On the left-hand side.
Thank you, Debbie. Apologies, Chair. Present, no interest to declare.
Thank you very much. Moving on to, I can next see in the room, Councillor Tim Dumper. Good morning.
Present, thank you, Debbie, and no interest to declare.
Thank you. And I can also see Councillor Kevin Blakey. Good morning.
Good morning, Debbie. Present and no declarations.
Thank you. And Councillor Eileen Ragg. Good morning, Eileen.
Good morning. Present, no interest.
Thank you. Chair, I can confirm that you're quorate. Do you want me to just check for any other declarations in the room while I'm here?
Yes,
Any
please.
other members present who've got anything to declare? I'll take that as a no. Thank you, Chair. Back to you.
Thank you, Debbie. Thank you, everybody, for that. So let's crack on with the agenda. So item 1, that's minutes of the previous meeting, which was held on the 14th of January this year. If anyone has an issue with the minutes, please raise your hand, and I see Councillor Dumper's about to do that.
All I was going to do, Chair, was to propose that they be accepted.
Thank you. If anybody's got any problems with the minutes, can you show? If not, we've got it proposed. I'll take a seconder just because it's been proposed. Anybody wish to? Councillor Blakey. Okay. Those in favour? Thank you. None against, no abstentions. So I'll sign those. Can't remember the date, 15th, isn't it? Okay, thank you, everybody. Second item on the agenda is apologies. So back to Debbie, please.
Thanks, Chair. I have had apologies from Councillor Eleanor Rylance, Aurora Bailey, Brian Bailey, Jenny Brown, Melanie Martin, Tony McCullum and Paul Hayward. Are there any other apologies that members are aware of? I'll take that as a no. Okay, thank you, Chair. Back to you.
Thank you, Debbie. So we're then on to item 3, declarations of interest, which we merged a minute ago into people saying they were present. Then on to item 4, public speaking, and we have no members of the public registered to speak. So we then move on to item 5, matters of urgency. I'm not aware of any matters of urgency. I look to monitoring officer or to Gemma. No, we have none. Then we're into item 6, confidential or exempt items. I'm not aware that we have any. No, okay. All right, be home in a minute. Item 7, which is the carers and special leave policy. There is a paper and attachments circulated to you. So I would ask Gemma Roberts to introduce the item, please. Gemma.
Hello everyone, I'm Gemma Roberts. I haven't met all of you yet. I'm the interim corporate lead. So today we're bringing our carers and special leave policy This policy covers the requirement of East Devon District Council to meet the UK Carers Leave Act, and this act provides for 5 days unpaid leave for carers. In consideration of how we implemented that act here at East Devon, ELT determined it appropriate to go above legislation and provide the leave as paid. And this demonstrates the organisational commitment to staff and those with long-term caring responsibilities. The policy and the impact assessment has been through Unison, and they have confirmed that they are in agreement with the policy. Thank you. Any questions?
Thank you, Gemma, and apologies, I should have introduced Gemma. Is this your this is your first meeting running it from the officer side, so welcome. We've seen Gemma previously. So, Councillor Barlow, outside committee.
Thank you, Chair. Obviously, this is a great initiative, the right thing to do. Are we confident that it will not be, especially by being fully paid, in any way abused? I always worry about these things. Once you start something, there's always people that will take advantage of it, and I think that will then deflect from the reason it's actually meant for. And yeah, it will just be an extra 5 days holiday, which is, I'm not saying would happen, I'm just saying, are we confident it won't?
Please.
Yeah, so the legislation sets out the process that we have to follow and the policy details, the requests that staff have to make, and that it can be declined if it's felt it's not been used for the appropriate reasons. So as part of, once this policy hopefully is approved, we will do some sessions with managers to talk about the process and ensure that they are checking that it is being used appropriately.
Then I think it's excellent. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Barlow. I think just to say that I would hope that we are an organisation where managers and their staff are close enough in order to have, for managers to have a feel for how their staff's lives are going, and therefore it perhaps will be a little bit easier to monitor. But I have good faith in our staff, so I'm sure that we won't be seeing anything untoward as might be concerned. Anybody else wish to raise anything on this item? No? Can I then perhaps propose it from the chair? Okay, given nobody's concerned about it. Therefore, those in favour, please show. That's it. There's no abstentions and no objections. So we have passed that. Thank you. We then move on to the next item, which is agenda item 8, people data. And again, I return, not for the last time, to Gemma to introduce this, please.
Thank you. Okay, so the annual people data will be presented at the next personnel committee. So this is the interim paper. So this data generally reflects our position up to the end of February 2025. There's just some particular areas to note. So headcount has decreased by 6 from 566 in October to 560 at the end of February. Vacancies are at 29 compared to 32 in October when we last brought the data. 2 of these are new apprenticeship opportunities within the executive support team. There has been a slight increase in the time taken to fill a vacancy from 61.85 days to 67.83 days. It is notable that turnover has begun to increase, and it's currently at 11.56%, and at the end of 23-24 it was 8.89% for the full year. So further analysis will be undertaken as part of the annual reporting. We have looked at sort of benchmarking data. Turnover is one of those things that are particularly difficult to benchmark because everyone reports it differently. And looking at sort of national rates, there's anything, people reporting anything from 15% to 35%. Then just finally to pick up on absence, so current total days lost per FTE is 9.21 days, and the current forecast for the end of year numbers of days lost per FTE is similar to the 10.05 days outcome, which was reported again in last year's annual data. And further analysis will be undertaken as part of the annual data. But again, looking at benchmarking, the average is 10.10 days lost. And looking at annual data for 2024, East Devon absence rates are lower than Exeter, Plymouth, Mid Devon and West Devon. Long-term absence is having an impact on the figures, and if removed, absence levels would be around 6 days lost. And national figures that are reported at 7.8 days. Just a note on COVID. So we've been reporting separately on COVID absence, but it's proposed that we no longer report COVID separately. However, if there's a notable spike like there was last year in the summer, that we would report that as such. And that was all from me on that one. Thank you.
Thank you, Gemma. So this is our usual people data report. As Gemma says, we will get the whole year data soon. It's good to hear that we are generally in line with other trends, and as been previously reported to committee, we do undertake benchmarking across the sector, within the sector, so that's helpful to be able just to check where we are in any of our key metrics. So, anybody else? Councillor Barlow.
I just wonder if we benchmark against anything other than like the public sector. Do we benchmark against private companies?
I think it's always better to compare apples with apples rather than apples with pears, Councillor Barlow.
I'm not disagreeing with that. However, it is always interesting to see if there is a huge difference between the private and the public sector. And I just wonder why. I noticed I'm on the Recycling and Waste Board, and I noticed they had a problem with sickness above what they wanted, and they changed the way they dealt with it, and it dropped substantially. I just wonder if we've looked at that sort of thing to see if perhaps the public sector could learn from the private sector. Not that I know it's necessarily better.
I'm sure everybody can always learn from each other, but I'm always slightly concerned that we take broad generalities of private sector and public sector, because within both the private sector and both the public sector, we have a whole range of different organisations with their different challenges. Also, within any organisation, we have different roles, and those sometimes can come out with different outcomes. So, yes, I'm sure one could do it, but it's always better, in my view, as I return, to comparing apples with apples. Councillor Dumper, did you have your hand up?
Yes, I did, Chair, thank you. Yeah, I was just going to make a comment on Councillor Ian Barlow's statement and question, that there are plenty of comparisons at national level through, for instance, CIPD between private and public sector. So I think the general picture of comparison is there for you to look at. The other thing I wanted to ask about was the paragraph about mental health there. whether in fact the mental health categorised cases are all the kind of personal stress, anxiety and fatigue mentioned, or whether there are more serious cases of mental illness or whatever that feature in our figures.
Can I just be clear, Councillor Dumper, you're looking at the sickness absence
I'm
chart? Is that where you are?
I'm looking at paragraph 3.8 in the main report.
Oh, in the main report, right.
Sorry, I haven't brought up the. Maybe the answer is there. Maybe.
So in the main report, paragraph 3.8, which starts of note with regard to sickness absence, is the following, and then we're talking there about yes, third bullet point down. Okay. Gemma, do you have a thought?
Yeah, so that will include the things you just mentioned, potentially also work-related stress would be included within that. So as I mentioned earlier, we'll do further analysis as part of that sort of annual to do that deep dive into where we may be seeing some of those issues, and bring that in.
Yeah, I mean, I'd say, from my own work experience, if you like, it does happen when, there's overload of work or whatever, or interpersonal issues. I mean, those kind of things do arise quite a bit. Thank you.
Also, sorry, just on the benchmarking, so we do look at the national figures, and CIPD being one of those sources that we use, and also at the same time are mindful of what we are comparing against. So as I talked about with the turnover, sometimes it's difficult to see what you're comparing against, but we absolutely take that sort of big picture initially and then drill that down to see how we're comparing to others, and also even comparing with other councils. What are our services that we deliver versus the other councils? Because, so as an example, musculoskeletal is generally quite high for us, but we have street scene, for example, and others may not operate street scene. So that has an impact. So we do try and look across the board at that.
Okay. Councillor Bloxham. Blakey, sorry.
I'll try not to be insulted by that. Through you, Chair, the question, Gemma, the vacancy data for Place particularly, where I can see we've got 12 vacancies currently. Place obviously is a fairly broad church. Have you got a breakdown of which particular functions are most vacant, if that's the right phrase?
Yes, so we do that, and we have started to scrutinise our vacancy data more closely as part of ELT and HR working with finance to ensure that both data sets are saying the same thing and we've got the same vacancies. There have been a number of vacancies in street scene recently as part of Place in terms of some internal movements there, so that accounts for some of that. Those vacancies, but we do drill that down and analyse that on a regular basis.
Okay, thank you.
Anybody else wish to raise anything? No? Okay. Can I, again, perhaps from the chair, given I don't think there's any dissent in the room, propose we accept and note this report? Yes? Thank you. That's carried. So we then go on to the final item. Oops, I've just gone out of my agenda. And that is the HR update. And what you've got in front of you, Gemma will introduce in a second, is a broad summary of some of the key activities that colleagues in HR are working on, have been working on. And I thought it would be helpful for you to see the breadth of the activity that colleagues undertake. Gemma.
Thank you. Okay, so I just wanted to highlight a couple of points that's within the report. So I won't go through every point, but some of the key ones. So as you are aware, Joe left the council and I'm currently interim corporate lead, and there's a full summary of the changes and the structure chart within the report at Appendix 1. We've highlighted within there the work we've been doing, which I believe you're aware of, in terms of out of hours. So that work is ongoing and making good progress. The proposals were presented to SLT last week, and we're now looking at next steps and timelines for that. The report refers to work relating to the people strategy. So work has begun on this as part of the action plan for the peer review. They had recommended a workforce strategy be put in place. Despite of LGR and the changes that will bring, ELT are committed to putting a strategy in place that shows our commitment to the workforce and getting them in the best place possible for LGR. I'm holding a workshop tomorrow with ELT to look at that and develop the strategy. And we will then carry engagement with other key stakeholders as part of that work. And linked to this piece of work, we're proposing to introduce pulse surveys. And so I know, again, staff surveys have been talked about here. And it's proposed to introduce pulse surveys so that we can hear employee voice on a regular basis as we're going through LGR. So rather than an annual survey, it's also hoped that because they will be short, that we'll get increased engagement from the workforce in completing those. Work is also taking place to review the structures, and these were discussed with SLT last week. And the aim is to ensure that, again, we're well positioned for LGR whilst addressing the number of direct line reports, team sizes, and building team capacity and resilience. And next steps will now be agreed with SLT and timelines put together for that. And then finally, I just wanted to highlight the work taking place for supporting care experienced young people. So we've made good progress with this and have been engaging with Devon County Council. They recently supported us in advertising 2 apprenticeship opportunities to care experienced young people. And we are in the process of arranging a workshop to initially be held with the senior leadership team members, which is run by young people themselves to raise awareness of their experiences and how we can support them as a council, as corporate parents. Thank you.
Thank you, Gemma. So you've had a whistle-stop tour around some of the key issues that Gemma and her colleagues are working on. I just wanted to pick up a couple of things before I invite colleagues in to discuss. The first is, yes, Gemma's here as the interim corporate lead, us with Joe having recently left. Gemma arrived expecting to become the ops service manager, and the next thing she knew, she's interim corporate lead. Them's the breaks. Good luck. Then the other thing I wanted to just ask you if you could perhaps just drill down a little bit into the difference between, for colleagues, the difference between what a pulse survey is and what, if you like, what might be the normal, the traditional staff survey that we might have got used to.
Yeah, so with sort of your traditional, you generally would do that annually, and it would try and cover a number of areas to get a view of how your workforce feel at that particular time. With pulse surveys, you generally undertake them more frequently, so maybe quarterly, and they're much shorter, and you will normally have some standard questions, and this is what's being proposed, that you would always ask, which would allow you then to measure how things are progressing. But then you would also ask questions around what might be a key topic at that particular time. And what that allows you to do, I think, especially in light of LGR, is we appreciate that staff will probably change how they're feeling quite frequently as we go through the process. So that will allow us to hear their voice and understand how they're feeling at any particular time, and see if staff are struggling with the change, and therefore where we can put intervention in to support the workforce. Or if there's particular issues, and it will allow us to continually adapt the strategy to reflect what the workforce need.
Thank you, Gemma. So a more nimble response should key issues come up. And yes, we've got local government reorganisation out there, and also within the report talking about the staff structure, the management structure. Right. I'm going to go outside, and we've only got one colleague outside, so that's you, Councillor Barlow.
Thank you, Chair. I noticed the pay awards coming up, and you went to the thing, and obviously that's a big thing for this council, the cost of it. And I noticed that one of the requests is that they're trying to reduce the working week by 2 hours. Can I just confirm, is the standard working week still 40 hours like it used to be when I was slightly younger, or has that slipped before this?
So 37 is the standard working week at the moment.
37 now?
Yeah. Right,
okay. And how do we think we're doing on the negotiations? Are we allowed to say, or is it likely to affect us badly in the finance side?
Depends what you mean by badly, Councillor Barlow.
Having to find more money, Joe.
Well, more money than what?
Well, the £15 an hour for a start. What, more money above inflation, I suppose.
All I would say to you is that you will always get a pay claim, and a pay claim will obviously often include not just monetary reward, but also other benefits. And yes, obviously the trade unions will be going for maximum, and we've got to try and find a common point along the way. We have budgeted, and we now await. This is national negotiations, so we are somewhat removed. We have inputted through the regional local government structure our thoughts alongside that of many other councils, and it's no secret that we, along with everybody else, have said we're a bit strapped for cash. However, we've got to try and balance the getting value for money for residents, balancing our books, and making sure that we're fair and equitable to our staff. So that's always a bit of a challenge. All I would say to you is, I like you when I started work, which looking at you, I think may have been not quite as long ago as me, but still quite a long time ago. It was 40 hours, I remember, and often with regular weekend overtime, which we had to do. Things have moved on in a positive way, and all I would say is that I've watched these things for the last 45, 50 years, and each pay claim, you always ask for a reduction in the working week, because it's one way of trying to get more without necessarily showing in the bottom line. But I think, Gemma, are you wanting to add?
Yeah, so I was going to mention that the unions have asked that consistently to reduce the working week for a number of years now. But also, just on the minimum hourly rate, East Devon are in a much better position than lots of other councils with that, because of the pay, the reward review that took place, because we've removed a number of the lower spinal column points. So we already start at, and I can't remember off the top of my head what it's, 13 something. So when we went to the South West Council's meeting, a lot of the other councils are starting where they're just above national wage, whereas so it wouldn't be such a increase for us, an impact across our workforce. So on a positive, if that was to be agreed, we are in a better position maybe than others.
And yes, we recall a couple of years ago, I think it was, we introduced the reward review, and we accepted at the time that would, at least in the short term, give us a bit of an advantage over our competitor councils locally, because we were positioning ourselves in a better place, not exceptionally, but marginally. And it's always beneficial, I think, to make sure that you're not bobbing around at the bottom with the lowest scales, the lowest paid in your council, that we don't do it in a way that we are mirroring the minimum wage, because otherwise we're constantly having to review an upgrade, and it then has a knock-on effect up through the structures. So I think, as Gemma says, we've built in a little bit of respite for the moment, depending on where the government takes the level for minimum wage. Was there anything else, Councillor Barlow, on the report?
No, thank you very much, Chair.
You're welcome. So, Councillor Arnott.
Thank you, Chair. Ooh, echoey, isn't it, today? So really interested in aids there, supporting care experienced young people. I'm really pleased we're doing that, making that proactive thing. I know councils across Devon are concerned about this, about that cliff edge at 18 where people fall out of care, quite often into homelessness, and quite often from all sorts of other disadvantages, lack of family backup and so forth. How do you see that? And so we're saying we're advertising 2 apprentice opportunities. How do you see that kind of developing and with our relationship with Devon County and trying to get more care experienced young people involved?
Yeah, so one of the things we're doing at the moment is developing effectively a crib sheet for all the personnel advisors that work with care experienced young people at Devon to have to hand. So if they have a young person that's interested in a particular area of work. They can see, okay, at East Devon we've got street scene, for example, and that person's interested in maintenance work, so actually that could be an opportunity there, and then they will contact us to see if we can create that opportunity there. So we're looking at things such as advertising our apprenticeship opportunities through them and sort of targeting those young people, but also work experience, and whether that be what you might see as sort of traditional work experience, so a week of work experience, or it might be longer term work experience, so that they are coming in maybe a day or two a week over an extended period of time. And that might be easier for these young people to do that, but also means they're being able to show as part of CVs and things that commitment and reliability on an ongoing basis. So we're looking at that, but also for young people where it's needed, it might just be taster sessions. So we haven't been prescriptive at the moment because we've just sort of started the conversations, but those are the sort of things that we've talked about. So we're not just giving one opportunity, we're looking at how we can support these young people in accessing what they need to access to sort of build that CV, because as we know, a lot of care experienced young people don't get qualifications at the national standards, so sometimes an apprenticeship isn't right for them, so building those skills and experience for them to sort of bring them into the workforce. And if there was an opportunity that come up, they were doing work experience, an opportunity come up, you know, they may then have the skills to sort of go into that. As part of that, I guess it's also about building that awareness across the workforce, so that they can understand some of the challenges that come with being care experienced, and how, unfortunately their lives can be more chaotic. So sometimes that reliability isn't as easy for them. So increasing that awareness so that when we offer those opportunities and the young people come in, there's a greater chance of success in getting what they need from that experience.
Thank you, Gemma. Almost a tie. Councillor Dumper, followed by Councillor Blakey.
Yeah, I just wanted to follow up on Councillor Arnott's point. As one of my young relatives has been through the care system, and I'd quite like to talk to you about some of the issues around that. And he's not resident in Devon at the moment, so it's not somebody that can be involved here, but he has got a lot of views, and he's aged 26 now, so he's seen a fair lot. So I'm very, very positive about East Devon District Council taking this on, and would like to help in any way I can.
Thank you, Councillor Dumper, for that. Councillor Blakey.
Again, back with the point 8. How many applications did we actually receive for that one? And have we, because obviously the closing date is now well past, have we completed the interviews and made offers?
So I'm not sure of numbers. I don't know if Tracy knows numbers. Just to put you on the spot.
I'm not sure of those. No, I don't know.
So I'm not sure of how many applicants we had, but in terms of, so interviews have taken place, and 2 have been offered, but we're looking at some of the logistics of that at the moment.
Yeah, I was just trying to get a bit of a handle on whether there was an avalanche of applications or whether it was just 1 or 2.
6 or 8.
Yeah. Okay.
And those wouldn't have been from all care experienced young people, if any. Obviously, it's up to them whether they want to say that they are care experienced. Yeah.
Okay, thanks.
So I think there's a positive message, isn't there, to take from this. And here we are again trying to be a positive employer locally, and to offer positive experiences to young people in all different ways and with all different experiences. Anything else on this report? No? Are you content to note it? Yes? Okay, then we note that. Right. That then brings us to a conclusion, and our meeting will end in a minute. And I'd like to thank everybody here for taking part, and wish you a good day.